I want you to picture yourself at a birthday party. And I mean, not an elegant adult gathering, but a full chaos children's party.
Oh, absolutely. The best kind of chaos.
Right. So you are standing in a crowded, maybe slightly smoke-filled kitchen. You are nervously watching a toddler who is basically vibrating with absolute anticipation as they actively try to eat a lit candle like a breadstick.
Sounds about right.
Or, maybe you are flashing back to a memory of a full-blown WW-style sibling fight over who gets to actually blow out those candles, like a scuffle that somehow resulted in someone slapping a cup, and suddenly there is root beer splashed all across the ceiling.
A sticky brown stain that, let's be honest, is probably going to be there for the next 4 years.
Literally.
Yeah.
It is the absolute peak of domestic chaos.
It really is. I mean, we gather our most prized possessions, our children, our families. We put them in a dimly lit room, hand them a plate of pure sugar, and then we plant a small controlled fire directly in the center of it.
Yeah, and then we just encourage everyone to spit in the general direction of the communal dessert.
Exactly. And we just accept it as totally normal.
You've probably lit, blown out, relit, and blown out again thousands of candles in your lifetime. I mean, you might have even singed your own hair leaning over a massive Costco sheet cake.
We've all been there.
But when you are standing there wiping frosting off the counter, have you ever actually stopped to ask, why do we do this? Who exactly thought that giving children fire over food was a good idea?
Well, when you lay out the components like that, fire, sugar, and unsupervised spitting, it sounds like a recipe for disaster, not, a universal cultural touchstone.
Well, in today's deep dive into our sources, we are going to trace the incredibly strange global journey of the birthday candle. We have got a stack of research and historical context that takes us from ancient altars to a Swiss folklore journal and ultimately to Mickey Mouse.
Quite the journey.
It is. We are going to prove that this weird wax-covered ritual has historical layers just like a really good cake. Okay, let's unpack this.
Right, so to really understand how we got here, we have to travel back thousands of years.
Yeah.
Way before Duncan Hines frosting was ever even a concept.
We have to start with the fire itself, right?
Exactly. Because for a massive chunk of human history, fire wasn't just, a fun party trick or a way to get a cute photograph. Fire was equated with the divine.
Yeah. We are talking about ancient cultures across the board. The sources mention the Vedic world, Persia, ancient Greece, and Rome.
But it wasn't like they were lighting candles to celebrate surviving another year of life.
Far from it, right.
Right. In all of those cultures, a flame on an altar was treated as a literal stand-in for a sacred divine presence. It provided warmth and light, which were life-sustaining, obviously, but it also consumed offerings.
Right, carrying them up to the heavens as smoke.
Yes. It was a bridge between the mortal and the divine. Pop culture historian Marie Nicola, who researches the history of human social rituals in our sources, points out that this idea of fire as a divine presence is incredibly old. It crosses almost all cultural boundaries.
I mean, I see the connection with fire being sacred, but the leap to birthdays feels huge because for most of ancient history, marking a birthday at all was strictly a religious observance.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, the Romans threw elaborate birthday celebrations for the elite, but it wasn't actually a party for the physical person, was it?
No, not at all. It was an offering made to their genius.
The genius.
Yeah. The Roman concept of the genius is really fascinating. It was essentially a protective spirit, like a sort of divine guardian that was believed to walk alongside a person from the moment of their birth until the end of their life.
Okay, so the celebration, the wine, the offerings, it wasn't like, happy birthday, Marcus, you're 30.
Right.
It was a party to appease a spiritual bodyguard so it would keep doing its job.
That is a great way to put it, actually.
Yeah.
You are honoring the spirit that keeps you alive,
Yeah.
not congratulating yourself for simply existing. It was an act of reverence. And fire was the primary medium for that reverence.
Wow, okay. Which brings us to the internet's absolute favorite birthday rumor.
Oh, the Artemis story.
Yes. If you go online or even read some museum placards, you will find this beautiful story that the ancient Greeks actually invented the birthday candle.
It's everywhere.
It is. The claim is that they baked these round cheesecakes made of honey and flour, called amphiphons, I believe, and offered them to Artemis, the goddess of the moon.
Right.
And to mimic the glowing moonlight, they supposedly decorated these cakes with lit torches or candles.
I mean, it is a wonderfully poetic story. It makes so much sense visually. The round cake, the glowing candles, the moon.
That's super aesthetic.
Exactly. You can completely see why it ends up in encyclopedia entries and on social media trivia pages. But what's fascinating here is that historians like Kwasi Kanadu and Marie Nicola confirm there is absolutely zero documented historical link between those ancient mooncakes and our modern birthday rituals.
Oh man, you're gonna break my heart here. How can historians be so sure it's total myth? Like, it just sounds too perfect. Are we saying the Greeks didn't bake these cakes at all?
Oh no, they absolutely baked the cakes for Artemis. And they did use fire in their rituals.
Okay, so what's the issue?
The myth isn't that the Greeks didn't do this. The myth is the unbroken chain connecting their ritual to ours.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, Dr. Konadu explicitly states that this popular idea has basically no support in the historical record. It is a classic example of retrofitting history.
Like an ancient urban legend that just sounded too cool to fact check.
Exactly. We see an ancient practice that vaguely resembles something we do today, and we just draw a straight line between them. But folklore doesn't always work like that. The tradition of the birthday candle actually died out entirely before it could ever evolve from Greece.
Wait, birthdays died out. If the Greeks didn't invent the birthday candle, who actually killed the birthday party for the next few centuries? Because we obviously still have them now, so they must have flatlined and come back.
They absolutely flatlined. The evolution of the birthday celebration was completely halted by a massive cultural shift in the West.
Which was?
The rise of early Christianity.
Oh, wow. I guess the early Christians weren't exactly known for their wild parties. But why target the birthday?
Well, they viewed the entire concept as dangerously pagan and fundamentally misguided. Remember what we just discussed about the Romans making offerings to their protective spirits?
Right, the spiritual bodyguard.
Yes. So, to an early Christian, making offerings to a personal spirit was outright idolatry.
Oh, that makes sense.
Plus, the early Christian theological focus was entirely on the afterlife, spiritual purity, and salvation. Celebrating the physical day you arrived in this flawed earthly realm was considered excessively self-focused.
So they just completely wiped it off the calendar.
They did. They replaced personal birth dates with a completely different set of milestones. Early Christian calendars focused on baptisms, the celebration of Easter, and the feast days of martyrs.
And the sources point out they celebrated the deaths of martyrs as a birth into heaven.
Yes, exactly.
It's a complete inversion of how we view birthdays today. Like, they were celebrating the exit, not the entrance.
That is the core theological difference. Life on earth was a trial. True life began after death. Now, it is important to note that the candles themselves survived this era.
They did.
Yeah, they were used heavily in Christian liturgy, placed on altars to honor saints and mark sacred moments in the church. So the fire remained divine. But the cake?
No cake for you.
The cake was banished. It was strictly uninvited for a very long time.
Okay, I'm trying to trace the timeline here. Wait, so for hundreds of years, the church basically said, no cake for you, we only celebrate martyrs.
Essentially, yes.
It sounds like shifting from saints' days to personal birthdays was the original modern rebrand. But how do we get from the medieval church back to a personal party?
It was a very gradual shift, heavily tied to the late medieval period and wealthy homes, but really picked up with the Reformation.
The Reformation.
Yeah. By the 1600s, Protestant regions in Europe began actively moving away from the Catholic tradition of celebrating saints' feast days. They wanted to distance themselves from that specific theology. But human beings are social creatures, you know. We need milestones to mark time, build community, and gather.
So if you take away the saints' days, you leave a giant hole in the social calendar.
Precisely. To fill that void, these communities started celebrating personal milestones instead. Weddings, baptisms, and eventually personal birthdays. The celebration was brought back into the home.
And this brings us to a really crucial date in our sources, 1691.
Ah, yes, Wagenthal.
Right. A scholar named Johann Christoph Wagenthal is writing about the city of Nuremberg, Germany, and he explicitly documents children's birthday cakes. Our sources note this is the earliest known reference to an actual non-religious birthday cake.
It is.
But even then, he doesn't mention candles. The fire is still at the church, and the cake is at the house. So how did the fire finally get on the cake?
For that collision, we have to look to an 18th century German children's festival known as Kinderfest. This is really the crucible where the secular cake and the liturgical candles are finally fused into a single tradition.
But this wasn't just like some whimsical parent deciding to jam candles into a pastry for fun, wasn't? The sources tie this directly to a cultural movement called Pietism.
Yes, and understanding Pietism is the absolute key to understanding the modern birthday. Pietism was a movement within Lutheranism that placed a massive emphasis on heartfelt, individual devotion.
Okay.
They believed that faith wasn't just something you did at church on Sunday. The family home was supposed to be a moral training ground.
I mean, I'm struggling to see how giving a child a cake with fire on it counts as moral training. It sounds more like an insurance liability.
You have to view it through their symbolic lens.
Yeah.
Kinderfest wasn't a raucous party. It was a deeply reflective, almost solemn occasion.
So it wasn't fun.
Well, the cake represented the joy of the celebration, sure. But the candles were brought over from church liturgy to represent the child's inner growth and the fleeting nature of time. The parents would use this moment to teach the child about reflecting on their past year and setting intentions for their moral development in the year to come.
Oh, wow. So they sit the kid down in front of this glowing pastry, and it's basically a domestic church service.
Very much so.
And the math they used for the candles is fascinating. Between 1691 and 1740, they instituted the practice of using one candle for every year of the child's life, plus one extra candle.
The famous one to grow on.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because that one to grow on candle reminds me of a modern video game where a character levels up.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Right. Like when you finish a level, the game tallies up all the experience points you've acquired, which is the candles representing the past years. But then the game instantly gives you a new empty progress bar for the next level. That extra candle is the beacon for the level you are about to play.
It acknowledges the past, but focuses on the potential of the future.
Exactly.
That is a perfect modern parallel for what the Pietists were doing. They were creating a visual representation of time and potential, and it felt deeply sacred to them.
Yeah, our sources mention a quote from Goethe about this.
They do. In the 1740s, the famous writer Johann Wolfgang von Goethe wrote a striking description of a birthday cake he witnessed. He didn't describe it as festive or fun. He described the cake as being surrounded by lights, quote, like an altar.
Like an altar. So the fire has made its way from the ancient Roman temple through the Christian church and right onto the dining room table.
Exactly.
But Goethe's quote brings up the most iconic and arguably the strangest part of the tradition. We don't just stare at the altar, we blow it out. Why do we insist on the breath?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, breath has been synonymous with the life force, or the soul, across countless belief systems for thousands of years.
I mean, think of the phrase taking your last breath.
Right. Breath is the physical evidence of the invisible spirit inside you.
Even in early Christian mysticism, the breath of God is what animates life. So the breath isn't just like carbon dioxide from your lungs.
Yeah.
It's the literal essence of who you are.
Exactly. So when a child is instructed to blow out a candle while making a silent wish or intention, it is essentially an echo of a votive prayer.
Wow.
It's just that it has been reframed. It is no longer an ancient priest sacrificing an animal on a stone altar. It is domestic, child-centered, and wonderfully secular. You aren't just huffing at some wax to put out a fire.
Right.
You are performing a tiny, private act of intention using your own life force to send a wish out into the universe.
I absolutely love the poetry of that, but I have a major logistical question. If this started as a private domestic German prayer, how on earth did it become mandatory at every kid's party worldwide?
That leap from a quiet regional custom to a global mandate required a massive transport system. It happened in two main phases, European immigration and eventually the absolute powerhouse of American mass media.
Okay, the immigration phase makes a lot of sense. In the 19th century, German immigrants are crossing the Atlantic in massive numbers, moving to the United States, and they basically pack their cultural traditions right alongside their belongings.
And we know this didn't just happen quietly in their homes because historians can track it in the public record.
Right, the newspapers.
Yes, they found Kinderfest announcements printed in German-language newspapers in cities like Philadelphia and Milwaukee all throughout the 1800s. The evidence of the tradition taking root in America is right there in black and white.
Meanwhile, it's also spreading across Europe.
Yeah.
Our sources highlight a fascinating entry from 1881 in the Swiss Folklore Journal.
Oh, that's a great detail.
Yeah, researchers documented that the Swiss middle class had fully adopted this candle-on-cake tradition, but they explicitly noted a very specific rule. You had to blow out the candles before eating the cake.
Which seems obvious to us now, but it was a notable shift back then. Dr. Konadu notes this rule was likely a practical evolution of an older German tradition. Originally, families would light the candles in the morning and let them burn all day long for the spiritual protection of the child, literally replacing them as they melted.
So they took this day-long spherical protection fire, and someone finally said, look, we want to eat the pastry, let's add a deadline.
Exactly. You blow them out, the protection is locked in, pass out the forks.
I love that. So by the early 1900s, having candles on a cake is a solid middle-class norm in both the US and the UK.
It is.
And by the 1920s, American capitalism enters the chat. Department stores realize they can commodify this. They start mass-producing small birthday candles and selling them in age-appropriate sets with little holders.
They completely commercialized the domestic ritual. But the ultimate lock-in moment, the thing that transformed it from a popular middle-class trend into an inescapable global mandate, happened in 1931.
Enter Mickey Mouse.
Yes, Mickey Mouse. In 1931, Disney released a short film that featured a birthday party. And that film didn't just show a party. It presented a very specific, inflexible template.
The exact order of operations.
Exactly. You bring out the cake, there are lit candles on it, everyone sings a specific song, the child makes a wish, and they blow out the candles. In that precise order. This raises an important question about how human behavior actually spreads and cements itself in a culture.
Right.
Because pop culture, like a Disney film, almost never creates a ritual from scratch. As Marie Nicola points out, people generated these behaviors over centuries of gradual, messy evolution. What pop culture does is standardize it.
Yeah.
It takes the mess and creates what sociologists call a ritual script.
Oh, it's like the very first viral TikTok dance. Like, before TikTok, people obviously danced at parties, but everyone did their own thing.
Right.
Then one specific choreography goes viral, millions of people see it, and suddenly everyone is just unknowingly copying the exact same 15-second routine without even thinking about where it came from.
That is exactly how a ritual script works. Because of that 1931 Disney script, we instantly know how a birthday party runs without ever being explicitly taught. We know when to turn off the lights, we know when to start singing, and we know who is supposed to blow out the flames.
And after World War II, American consumer culture just explodes globally. Through tourism, the export of kids' media, and massive brands trying to sell party supplies, the U.S. exported that exact Disney script to the rest of the world.
Completely.
Even countries with their own ancient rich traditions just adopted this one and placed it right on top. Like Japan, which only picked up the candle-blowing custom in the 1950s specifically because of the influx of American media and culture.
It's a true testament to the staggering power of media standardization. The ritual script is so deeply ingrained in our collective psyche that we feel physically uncomfortable if someone tries to change the order of operation.
Would it?
Imagine being at a party where someone blows out the candles, then the lights go out, and then everyone starts singing. People would be genuinely confused and upset. The script has been violated.
Which makes me wonder, does literally the entire world just unquestioningly follow this Disney-approved script now? Or are there holdouts?
Oh, there were definitely holdouts.
I have to imagine that not every culture just surrendered to the mass-produced plastic candle holders.
Definitely not. There are amazing variations, and entirely different traditions have survived alongside the Americanized script, which proves that the human need for celebration is much bigger and more complex than just wax and Hollywood media.
Our sources highlight some of these alternatives, and they really focus on different philosophies of time and aging.
They do.
For instance, in Ghana, a birthday celebration often starts not with a sugary cake, but with a savory sweet potato breakfast dish called oto. It grounds the day in nourishment rather than a sugar rush.
And in Russia, many people skip the cake entirely in favor of a beautifully decorated, personalized birthday pie.
The one that really stands out to me is in China. The celebration there frequently leans on a bowl of longevity noodles.
Yes.
And the critical rule is that the noodles must be uncut. Like, you don't want to break them because they visually symbolize a long, unbroken life.
It's such a different philosophy from the Western candle. A candle represents a discrete year that burns down and is extinguished. The uncut noodle represents continuous flowing time.
It is a beautiful contrast. And even Germany, you know, the country where the candle-on-cake tradition really took root, still does its own thing today.
Oh yeah, the wooden wreath.
Exactly. Many German families use a wooden birthday wreath. They light one candle for every year of the child's life, plus a taller central candle known as the light of life.
But they don't just blow them out in 30 seconds and start singing.
No. They let those candles burn all day long, often continuing this specific tradition until the child turns 12.
It goes all the way back to that 19th century idea of spiritual protection. They're just keeping the fire burning as a shield for the child, tending to the flame throughout the day.
It's so much more intentional than just a quick photo op. And we really can't talk about birthday traditions without mentioning the ultimate level of pageantry. The author of our source text makes this great joke about the sheer exhaustion of having to constantly relight cakes for their 5 kids.
Oh yes, dealing with all the spit and chaos.
But they point out that the late Queen Elizabeth famously celebrated 2 birthdays every single year. One private, one public.
So if you are exhausted from having to deal with multiple birthday cakes for your kids, just remember you are basically executing a monarch-level tradition.
It definitely elevates the chaos of the domestic kitchen to royal status.
It does.
So what does this all mean? I want you, the person listening to this right now, to think about the next time you are standing in a dim kitchen, you are holding a lighter to a slightly bent, glittery candle, you've got a vibrating toddler next to you, staring at the flame.
In that specific moment, realize you aren't just doing a cute party trick for a camera.
No, you are the latest link in an unbroken historical chain. A chain that connects ancient Roman offerings made to protective spirits, to early Christian liturgy on stone altars, to the moral training of German pietism, to a researcher writing in a Swiss folklore journal in 1881, and finally to the frosted cake sitting on your counter.
Despite the intense commercialization of the last century and the Disneyfication of the event that told us exactly how to perform it, there is a profound reason society clings to this ritual.
There really is. When you strip it down to its core components, it is deeply meaningful. In our fast-paced modern world, it is maybe the one moment a year where you get 30 seconds to force a room full of people to just stop.
Yeah, you stand in the dark.
You literally catch your breath, gathering your life force in your lungs, and you reflect on your own existence. You make a silent intention for the future. It is a tiny, secular prayer wrapped in sugar and frosting.
That is what makes the peeling back of the layers of our everyday routines so endlessly fascinating. We perform these acts blindly, complaining about the mess or the noise, but they are encoded with centuries of human meaning and spiritual history.
That is the absolute joy of a deep dive like this. Thank you for coming on this journey with us and for taking the time to not take mundane for granted. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought based on what we've uncovered today.
We've established that the breath represents our physical soul, our life force, and that media standardized our physical ritual script way back in 1931.
But what happens to this deeply human tradition as our celebrations go entirely digital?
That is a staggering thought. Today, we often don't gather in a room at all. We just post a message on someone's social media wall or send a quick text.
Exactly. Are emojis of birthday cakes the new Disney short film? Are those little digital pixels standardizing a completely fireless, breath-free future for the next generation's rituals?
It really makes you wonder.
If we lose the physical breath, the gathering in the dark, the actual fire, do we lose the echo of that ancient votive prayer entirely?
It's something to think about the next time you see a WWE-style sibling fight over who gets to blow out the candles and someone splashes root beer on your ceiling.
Don't be mad about the stain. Be glad you still have the fire.
Keep questioning the everyday world around you.